section is 11.2. This is on applying transformations to data. You'll need your graphing calculator to help you with this one. It's very, very similar to what we did yesterday in section 11.1, so you definitely want your calculator. So we have a rule that we need to look at in this one. If you add or subtract a number to each value in the set, the measures of center will all increase or decrease by that data value. The dispersion values, in other words, the range and the standard deviation, will remain the same. So remember here, the measures of center are mean, median, and mode. Those numbers only will increase or decrease by that same data value that you're adding to each number in the set. So here's an example we're going to try, and I'll show you what we're talking about. The weights of 5 people are 138, 142, 155, 140, and 155. We want to find the 5 summary values: mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. So you need to go to your calculator. We're going to enter this information into list number 1. Here's your calculator. Go ahead and enter your numbers: 138, 142, 155, 140, 155. Remember, to get to your calculator, you need to do stat enter or stat edit, clear out what was in there before, and then you can enter in your numbers. Once we have our numbers entered, then we're going to find our 5 summary values. So we go to our stat button, arrow over ones to calculate, take choice number 1, variable statistics, and then calculate those values. Alright, so here's the numbers that we're looking for. We want the mean, 146. So I'm going to go back to my screen. Mean is 146. If I arrow down, I can see the median is 142. The mode, if you look at the numbers on your list, which one shows up the most is 155. The range and standard deviation. Remember, range you can't get an exact number on. It doesn't show up for you. You have to actually do this yourself. Range, remember, is the high minus the low. So if we look at our max, 155 minus the min, 138, you'll have your range to be 17. And the last number is our standard deviation number, 7.45, so let's just call it 7.5. So there's our 5 summary values. The 3 that we're going to be keying on is going to be these 3 right here, mean, median, and mode. So now here's what we need to do, what this section is all about. Each person lost 3 pounds. Find the new summary values. So this is exactly what we're being asked in this particular section, applying a transformation to data. So the rule says if you add or subtract a number to each value in this set, the measures of center will all increase or decrease by that same data value. So if the rule holds, then, and each person is losing 3 pounds, I should be able to take each one of the measures of center, mean, median, and mode, and just subtract 3 from each of those. So I think my answers should end up being 143, 139, and 152 for the new mean, median, and mode. The range and standard deviation should stay the same. So how can I check just to make sure that I'm on the right track or not? Well, there's a shortcut way that you can come up with new data values without actually entering them in yourself. So this calculator shortcut is right here. We're going to do list 1 minus 3. List 1 minus 3. So I want you to go back and look at your calculator. We're going to go back to our stat edit buttons, and we are currently in list number 2. We have all of our regular numbers in list 1, which is where we want to keep them. What you're going to do is arrow up to the top, so L2 is dark, then you're going to hit the enter button. Should be blinking down here. When it's blinking down here, it's waiting for some type of a command or an equation from you. We want to tell it to take every number from list 1 and subtract 3. So if you look above your 1 button, you see in a different color, it says L1. We want to go there. So second L1, subtract 3. This is my equation, and if I hit enter, it automatically pops my numbers into list 2 for me. So my new list 2 numbers, every single one of these data values is 3 less than what I had before. And I want to calculate my new statistics based on this new list. So we're going to go back to our stat button, calculate one variable statistics, but here's where you have to tell it now, we're not in list 1 any longer, we're now in list 2. So I need to tell it to look in list 2 and then recalculate the values. So here's my new mean, 143. Here's my new standard deviation, 7.5. Let's go back to our list real quick. My mean we showed was 143. Standard deviation was 7.5. Do you see 7.5 didn't change, but the mean was what we thought it was going to be, 3 less. Let's go back and look at median. If we arrow down, median is 139. That's what we predicted it was going to be, 3 less than what we started from. And the mode, again, if we look at our list, stat enter, if you look at your list, which number shows up the most this time is 152, 152. So now if I go back and write in my mode is 152, that's what we predicted it to be. Range is going to be the high minus the low. If we go back and look at our calculator, and if we arrow down, our min is 135, our max is 152 still, and if I subtract that, I'm still going to get the same number that I had before, which was 17. So the rule, if you're adding or subtracting a data value to the entire set, the first 3, mean, median, and mode, will change by that same number. So you do not need to go through and recalculate everything. Once you calculate the initial information and come up with your original 5 pieces of data, whatever they tell you to do to that data, if they want you to add 5, all you have to do is take your number and add 5. Right here, right here, right here. Do not change the others. If they tell you to subtract 3, all you need to do is subtract 3 from these 3 initial values and leave the other 2 alone. And this is only if you're adding and subtracting. If we are multiplying a data set, there's a different rule. So here's the next rule you need to write down in your notes. If a constant is multiplied to each data set, all 5 summary values will multiply by that value. All 5. So we're going to put in information into our calculator. We're going to find our 5 summary values. They're going to ask us to change that information. And once we change that information, all we'll have to do is multiply by whatever they tell us the multiplying factor is. So here's a sample. We're going to go back to our calculators. We're going to re-enter these new numbers, 5, 14, 3, 7, 10, 12, 6, 10. So pull your calculators back up and let's enter that information. Here's your new numbers, 5, 14, 3, 7, 10, 12, 6, 10. We want to calculate the 5 summary values for this list. Stat, calc, one of our stats. We need to be back in list number 1, so make sure you're in list 1. Go ahead and calculate. Here's the information we're looking for. Our mean, 8.37, we'll call it 8.4. Our standard deviation, we'll call that 3.5. So I've got 8.4 and 3.5. 8.4, 3.5. Let's arrow down so we can see these things. Our median is 8.5. Mode, as you look at your list, is there a particular number that shows up more than once? Yes. 10. And the range, max minus the min, 14 minus 3. All right, there's our 5 summary values, 8.4, 8.5, 10, 11, and 3.5. Now, what are we transforming this data by? We need to multiply each number in the data set by 2.5. What will that do to our 5 summary values? Well, if you remember the rule we just learned, those new summary values will all multiply by that same value. Okay, so we're not going to go to our calculators and re-enter everything into list 2. All we have to do is take each of these and multiply by 2.5. So you need to go to your calculator and you're going to do individual multiplying. What is 8.4 times 2.5? What is 8.5 times 2.5? What is 10 times 2.5? 11 times 2.5, and 3.5 times 2.5. Here's my calculator screen for each of those different values. 8.4 times 2.5 is 21. Your median will be 21.25. Your mode is 25. Your range is 27.5. And your standard deviation is 8.75. So I'll just go to my screen. Everything is multiplying. So we had 21, 21.25, 25, 27.5, and 8.75. All right, so there you go with section 2, transforming data. When you're adding or subtracting, you only change the first 3, mean, median, and mode. If they tell you to multiply a data set, you will change all of them by multiplying by that number. All right, you can go ahead and get started on your homework for section 11.2.